Hey, welcome back. Today's video is about choosing components for your rifle. Because not all rifles are used in the same context, not all of them have the same requirements, and not all of them are going to use the same pieces of equipment to accomplish their goals. And today's video is not about one manufacturer or one product that's going to solve all of your problems. As a matter of fact, this is not sponsored content, but I do want to thank my patrons because the patrons make this possible. Let's talk about that one piece of equipment that connects that super expensive piece of glass to that super expensive precision rifle of yours, and why you may want to choose either a one-piece mount or separate rings, and under which context you would make each choice. If you've watched this channel for any period of time, you've seen me shooting my F-open rifles, and they all have one-piece mounts on them. And that's purposeful, because I learned a lesson. And I'll tell you about that lesson at the end of this video. But before we get there, let's talk about the 4 different considerations in choosing either a one-piece scope mount or individual rings for your rifle. The first consideration is weight. A near alpha mount weighs almost twice what a set of Night Force lightweight rings do. And that extra 4 ounces of weight may be counterproductive for your context. In my F-open rifles that tend to come out kind of light and need to have weight added to them, it's not a problem. As a matter of fact, it's a benefit to add that weight to the rifle. But for your rifle, it may be different. You may be up against the weight limit for your game. You may be doing a hunting rifle that you have to carry in the woods. And ounces equal pounds and pounds equal suck when you're going up that mountain after the elk. So do keep weight in mind. Likewise, that weight changes the balance of the rifle. A heavy scope mount right above the action tends to move the center of balance back toward the rear of the rifle. This can be good, like in F-class, where I like to have about 6 pounds of weight on the rear bag. Or it could be bad, like PRS, where you're trying to keep the balance point forward of the magazine well by a certain amount so it can be right on top of the obstacle. Because adding weight in the wrong place means you have to add weight in a different wrong place and overall end up with a heavier rifle than is absolutely necessary for the job you're trying to do. The second consideration is rail space. One-piece mounts are great. They're super stable because they consume the rail. But that can be counterproductive if you're trying to add other things to the rail, like bubble levels. Well, if you have a level that needs some rail space and you don't have any for it, you've got a problem that's kind of hard to solve. So it's better to make sure that your one-piece mount is going to fit and fit all the accessories that you want on your rifle at the same time. Not all mounts are made the same. Some are very short and some are rather long. So do be careful about your selection if you choose a one-piece mount. The third consideration is alignment and stability. One-piece mounts are made of a single piece of metal, machined. So the alignment of the 2 scope rings tends to be perfect. And that means that you're going to be able to throw that mount on your rifle, torque it down, put the scope in it, torque the caps, and go shoot without having to worry too much about getting the alignment just right or lapping the rings or anything of the sort. That doesn't mean that there's no one-piece mount out there that has a problem. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 out there. But the high-end ones that we use in precision shooting tend to be perfect and require 0 effort in order to go shoot with. So if precision mounting of your scope is important to you, but you don't have the time, skill, or equipment to get those individual scope rings perfect when you mount your scope, a one-piece mount might be a better choice for you. Our fourth and final consideration, and the reason that I use one-piece mounts on my F-open rifles, is mount, dismount, and remount dynamics. Because in F-open, we tend to take the scopes off of the rifles for transportation or for changing barrels. Either way, when we remount that scope, there is a chance with individual rings that we are going to induce some preload into the scope tube. This is not a good thing. As a matter of fact, in 2018 at the USF Class Nationals, I had dismounted the scope for air travel and remounted it when I got to Raton, New Mexico. This was my first ever US Nationals, and I was going to shoot my very best. Well, it didn't work out that way. On that very first relay in a pouring rainstorm with 0 wind, the perfect opportunity to shoot a new F-Class National record at 1,000 yards, my rifle changed zeros in the middle of the relay, 5/8 of a minute, straight up, and I couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. I lost all confidence in my scope and my equipment, and ended up taking that scope off the rifle and replacing it with a scope that I borrowed from one of my teammates. Kevin, thank you for loaning me that scope. You made a disaster into a positive outcome for me. Now, that was the worst finish I've ever had at the USF Class National Championships, and a lesson that I do not want to repeat. That's why I went to one-piece mounts, because I simply cannot induce any kind of preload into the scope tube when I take it off for transportation and then put it back on. It's a safety valve, an opportunity to eliminate a variable. In the end, not all scope mounts are appropriate for all uses. Your context makes a difference in which one you should choose for what you're doing. For me, for a hunting or PRS rifle, I'm going to go with individual ring, mostly because I don't dismount them. And for F-open, I'm going to go with a one-piece mount. For FTR, I would go with individual rings because it's lighter, and you're always fighting to keep that weight down. Ultimately, it's up to you which one you use and whether it fits the context of what you're trying to accomplish and what you want out of your rifle. Until next time, shoot straight, and I'll see you in the next video.